What's up, everybody? It feels so good to be back and in full health this time around and beat for our video. So now let's just count this one as the first official video of 2018. Forget about the last thing, okay? So let's jump into a recap of the 8th episode of this season of Teen Mom OG. Now, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video. Now, let's begin. There were a couple of filler scenes for the episode, so let's just skip along to the point when it turns out that Amber had invited her new boyfriend of a couple of hours, Andrew, as her date to the MTV VMA Awards, where she wants to debut him to the entire public as her man. Why she would do this so quickly into the relationship, I'll never know, but this Andrew fella was really loving the attention. But before he hit the red carpet, he met Amber's friend and fellow co-star Catelynn in a hotel as they all got ready together, and that's when he admitted that at 30-something years old, he is still living in his parents' home. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I think it's a really smart way to save money if that's what you need to do, but this fella in particular, just looking at his rap sheet and stuff, it is just pretty amazing to me that he has the money to be out here buying brass knuckles to beat women with, allegedly, you know, guns, firearms, knives of sorts, but he is not putting away money to get his own little place, whether it's to rent or own. Like, I think he is a straight up fool. He's like, yeah, I live out in Malibu with my parents. I don't know why, but every scene he's in, he gives me like a massive creep factor, and it's not on the Matt scale. It's like a different kind of like heebie-jeebies that I get from this guy. Like, he is just not good news whatsoever. So let's go back to where I skipped ahead. Amber took him out on the red carpet. He seemed to love it. They posed, flicked it up for the cameras and everything. And then after the show, they're just sitting on the couch talking about it all, and Amber reveals that her ex-geriatric fiance, Matt, had texted her saying, you know, when she's ready to ditch her little boy toy, Zaddy is ready to come back home to her, except he didn't refer to himself as Zaddy. He referred to himself as her husband. Now, let's move along before I really break out of my skin in hives. Farrah and Sophia are going to walk in their first fashion show in New York City, and Deborah drops by to invite them to her wedding ahead of the show. You guys, Sophia is so rude to Deborah from jump, like it was crazy. Like, Deb walks into the door with an envelope, and Sophia's sharper than I am because she's like, oh, would you look at that? It's an invitation. I was like, oh, well, chillax, girl. My slow ass didn't even get around to putting 2 and 2 together yet. Like, chillax. So she snatches it from Deborah's hands, like, give it over here. And then she starts opening it as Deborah's talking to Farrah, who's still getting ready in the washroom. And, you know, it turns out that it's an envelope within an envelope. And so Sophia's like, an envelope in an envelope, that's the stupidest thing, which is funny, but it's no way to be speaking with your grandma. Now, Farrah and Sophia are then looking at the invitation for the wedding, and Farrah asks her mom the question on everybody's mind, which is, why the heck did she put her professional designation on the invitation? Remember, she put EMBA, she put her fiance David on there as Dr. David. It was just team too much. That whole invitation just looked like a weird, like, what do you call it, stock photo? When you go to like a Photoshop website or whatever, and they have all these stock business card photos, that's what it looked like. There's nothing warm or romantic or lovey about it whatsoever. Now, Deborah says that she invited Amber to her wedding because Amber's been the most compassionate and real person to her, and Farrah explodes over it all. Like, given the reunion beatdown where Amber like went on stage, charged at Farrah, where her geriatric boyfriend knocked Michael off his feet, I am team Farrah on this. Like, you know, Amber may be nice to you, Deb, but her and her geriatric boo thing are terrible to the rest of your family. So for you to invite them to the wedding, especially after they've been physically violent with your daughter and ex-husband and your grandchild's grandfather, it's messy and petty as all hell, and I am team Farrah on that one over there. Now, the two of them go back and forth about all of this, and Sophia tries to drown out the noise with a little bit of noise of herself, and I really did feel bad for her. You see a lot of that throughout the episode. Now, meanwhile, in Tennessee, in the car, Ryan asks his black widow of a wife to slow down because she is going double the speed limit in the car, and I felt like that was pretty reasonable enough. I'm not a big fan of people going twice the speed limit when I'm in the car. Do that reckless shit on your own time. And Mackenzie goes, no, it's okay, I grew up here. What? Later, she meets up with her friend to eat, and she tells her friend that Ryan's the short-tempered one who's like always losing it on her. And I was like, what the heck is she even talking about? Now, this is where things get really telling, you guys, okay? So Mackenzie's friend asked her like, hey, you know, Ryan is getting off a drug that is super, super like lethal. Heroin, like one bad dose or just anything with it can kill you in an instant. Does that scare the shit out of you? And so this is Mackenzie's face. You could just tell she looked to the side real quick to think, do I have a life insurance policy out on this mother? It is so scary, girl. So scary. Like, just the way she looked to the side really quickly was so telling to me. And I, you know, invite you to go back and rewind the scene and just look at her face the instant her friend asked her whether or not it scares the shit out of her that the husband that she fooled into marrying her while high is addicted to a substance that is super duper lethal. She just had to pause and think about that for a second. Now, again, we're back with Amber and her guy, Andrew, and they're again talking after the VMAs. I don't know why they stitched these so weirdly this episode, but she reveals to him that Matt had sent her some sort of suicide note yet again. And at this point, it's like, Amber, just block the number. You know, it's just him being manipulative and it's none of your business. No one should be threatening suicide over losing you. Just keep it moving. Farrah invites a drag queen named Stacy over to the apartment in New York to teach Sophia how to be confident on the runway, and the entire scene was so cute and just the epitome of the amount of privilege and like wealth really loosely, right, that Sophia has around her. Like, Sophia is living that little girl dream life, y'all. Now, I was quite surprised that Deborah was here for all of this and actually enjoying it, because I feel like just a few short years ago when Deborah was the one holding the purse strings, she never would have allowed this to happen. Like, a drag queen interacting with not only her daughter but her granddaughter. Like, I feel like she would have been like, this is just so anti-Christ, and it is not happening. This is the same woman who would not let Farrah ask questions about her own like stomach and vagina when it came to giving birth. She told Farrah that it was being uncouth and rude to ask those sorts of questions. So, Deborah, you really have done a 180 now that Farrah is the one funding your liquid facelifts. And like I said, you guys, this whole scene was so cute for little Sophia. She looks like she goes through a lot, like in terms of bullying and stuff. So it's always nice, in my opinion, to see her get all the love and attention and like all this good stuff. Except as they're all packing up, Farrah essentially says something like, all right, well, we tried. If you like mess up, you mess up. Damn, girl, way to end on that note. Now, on the way there, Farrah has another meltdown over a relationship article, this time that her mother, Deborah, had sent to her. It's just such a mess how willing she always is to get into some sort of fight over nothing. So the whole fight stresses out her daughter, Sophia, as she tells them to stop talking from her little place in the backseat where you don't even see her. It was quite sad. We then move over to Michigan, where Catelynn tells Tyler about Amber's new man. She claims that she didn't get any red flags from him, which is pretty fair enough. Like, she only saw him for like a couple of hours or whatever. But to me, he just seems like someone who would give you the heebie-jeebies just being around him. Just something off in there. Tyler then opens up about the resentment that he feels towards his father and how he wants his father to make him a fence. It's the least he could do after he ruined his childhood, after all. Like, that line was so funny to me. And the two of them then talk over each other about what it was like growing up as children of addicts. Before I just look at Kate in the scene, and I notice that she really looks worse for wear, which worried me quite a bit, especially considering she literally just came from a fun trip in LA. Like, why does she look so rough and miserable and sad? And just, you know, I really felt bad for her in that scene. Maci and Taylor then decide to get out of the house and look for office space, as they've outgrown their home office where they run their little t-shirt company. So she starts panicking on the highway. You would have thought someone had died or something, like someone texted her that Ryan overdosed or something, the way she was acting. If I am such a nervous driver, you guys. If I were driving and someone like had a big meltdown like that over like a spelling error of their t-shirts or whatever, I would backhand you so goddamn fast. She was on a highway. There was no need for her to be so damn dramatic over something so minuscule. She could have literally just told Taylor, oh my God, we have a spelling mistake. I'm gonna like tell them not to print out the shirts or whatever. But she was like, oh my God, bad news, bad news. Just really, girl? The two of them make it to the office despite that emergency that Maci claimed they have, and they seem to fall in love with this co-working space that included a private office for them as well, and I just didn't understand the appeal at all. Like, it literally looked like a janitor's closet where they got rid of all the mops and brooms and stuff like that and said, hey, look, you could fit an iMac in here or whatever. It's just, I didn't get it, but I think they really like the appeal of free ice cream and beer. you know, like they can't afford that already themselves or something like that. But I digress. Now, you guys, just when we all thought homeless Andrew would at least return back home for a couple of days to get like a change of clothes or something, you know, since he missed his first flight to go back home to his parents' house in Malibu, but nope, he is still there, and Amber is still trying to pretend to be some sort of a mother to Leah, right? She decides again, you know what? I want to visit my daughter again. I mean, I didn't see her all summer, but now that I got a man, let me see this little girl twice. What's her name again? Leah? Is it Leah or Leah? Like that's Amber to me, right? So of course, again, now that she's got a man, Amber's driving abilities just, they don't work. Like the two just, you know, she's got like these circuits in her or something where they just don't wire together. So of course she can't drive again. And so Andrew, homeless Andrew, drops Amber off at the house, and she later decides that it would be an appropriate time for Gary to meet Andrew instead of them just planning it as a separate event so that Leah wouldn't have to meet Andrew. Like all of this is just such a big ass mess. And so she tells homeless Andrew when he comes back to pick her up, like, yo, wait over here, Gary wants to meet you. And of course, when you got a bunch of really young kids, as soon as you open that damn door, you guys, they all come spilling out of there, and all the kids and all the pets just came out of the house, and it was just one of those like awkward impromptu things where Leah is hanging out in front of the car as Andrew's just sitting there awkwardly, and you know, he gets out of the car to greet Gary, and you know, if I were Andrew, I would have declined. I really would not want to meet nobody's baby daddy wearing a muumuu, a pastel muumuu nonetheless. The meeting seems to go okay. I mean, as well as a quick little 2-second meeting can go. And as Gary is closing the door on, you know, the whole visitation thing or whatever, he tells Christina that he gives a relationship 2 weeks. I don't know. Gary sometimes just seems a little pressed, a little too pressed with whatever's going on in Amber's life. It's almost like he feels a certain kind of way about her being in relationships. I don't know if it's him being protective of Leah or him still being mad that Amber manages to continue to move on. I don't know. Just sometimes he makes some comments where you're like, why do you care? You know, like she's just a train wreck, let it go. And once in the car, Amber kept apologizing to Andrew for the fact that he was sort of ambushed, for lack of a better word, by her whole family, her whole extended family at that moment. But it was kind of like, well, you should have just drove your own ass there and then had Gary and all of them, Christina, meet Andrew at a coffee shop with you or at your house or something like that, instead of having everything involved and like so impromptu and messy. Back on the Spite Farm, Gary and Christina talk about Andrew, and they both got a good first impression for him, but honestly, what normal man would date Amber? You know what I mean? Like, there's no man of quality who would date Amber Portwood. So I would just always have my guard up whenever she told me she was with somebody, because I'd be like, oh, well, how long is his rap sheet? Maybe it's just like 2-3 arrests, because there's no one with a clean rap sheet who's gonna attach their name to this ever. You guys, unrestricted access to Amber's home and her Range Rover has homeless Andrew feeling comfortable as hell, because he doesn't even bother to change out of his little muumuu before going out for drinks with Amber. But over drinks, he asks her how often she sees Leah, and Amber admits that she doesn't get to see her a lot, but she doesn't go on further to say, I don't get to see her a lot because I choose not to see her a lot. No, she just is really vague about how shitty of a mom she is to Leah. But of course she calls Leah perfect and says that Leah is her whole entire world. I mean, if that's how you treat someone who is your world, I don't even want to know how you treat people that you don't care about, Amber, because it's a mess. Now, quick question, you guys. Were Amber's eyes off to anyone else in the scene? Like, her pupils were so big, I literally jumped a little bit when I saw that scene. Now, Mackenzie and Ryan head out for lunch, and he still seems off as hell. But then he starts talking about how glad he is that he listened to her and got help for his heroin addiction. He really seems regretful for all that he put the entire family, including Maci, through, and asks if there's anything he can do to help Mackenzie through, you know, this whole situation and helping him and everything like that. I just felt like, Ryan, I'm pretty sure you're high right now. Like, his eyes were so glossy and heavy. Like, just what he was saying and what he looked like just didn't match whatsoever. Mackenzie then starts crying about how strong she's had to be for everybody, and Ryan just looks at her with his totally vacant expression and face before he says that she didn't need to walk on eggshells around him or be afraid that he'd do something stupid if they fought. But, wasn't his extramarital Tinder account discovered not too long ago, where he was out here sending DICK pics to every Tom, Dick, and Harry? Meanwhile, in New York City, after the fashion show, Farrah FaceTimes her dad and his girlfriend Amy to laugh about Deborah putting her executive MBA on the wedding invitations and claims that it's because Deborah feels somehow inferior to David, you know, with him being a doctor or whatever. Michael and Amy agree that Farrah should be Deborah's #1 priority and that she should thus call off the wedding if Farrah is not happy with it. These two are the epitome of brown nosers, you guys. Now, it turns out that Butch had been working on Tyler's fence all this time that Tyler and Catelynn thought he was missing or whatever, and Tyler tells him that once he's done building the fence, he wants to check him into a rehab facility, and Butch seems really happy and grateful for it. It turns out that him being off parole for like the first time in about 2 decades has given him like the ultimate shakes. Like, he's just not used to not being under some sort of like prison system, and it's just so sad to see how much the American prison system just doesn't rehabilitate people. Like, it just puts people away, then expects them to come back into society as like normal people, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's really sad. And I hope that Butch manages to clean up in rehab the second time around. Now, you guys, that is your full episode recap. I'm more excited, of course, to hear what you have to say about everything, so please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more, feel free to share it with your friends as well, and follow me across social media where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.